I heard from a couple of people today through the internet, not to me specifically, but as a member of the global audience towards all things pertaining to Gaza. And it helped me try to formulate a response to the insult to our public that Israel has inflicted by what they're doing. It also helped me understand an actual sense of proportion about America's right to expect any sort of respect from Gaza. And I'm trying to explain what I mean in this video. Clearly, whether they respect us or not, it doesn't change our obligation to do something to try to help them. We've waited too long to expect very much in terms of peer support from them or gratitude, but it's not ingratitude. I'd like to explain what I mean. Ahmed Tamimi describes growing up in an environment where they used rocks to throw at each other as a form of play because that was the world that they lived in. And where her father was in prison, and it was a status symbol for her as a child. Chris Smalls was on the Handala. It was the flotilla that followed the Thunberg flotilla. There is, by the way, a new flotilla, Sumad, which is going to have 12 ships from around the world leaving August 31st. More power to them. He was the only black American on board, and he describes the experience of being taken hostage by the IDF. If you don't know this, the Handala was on the Mediterranean Sea and operating under the law of international waters. Israel crossed the line. They had no right to take him hostage that way. And he described the despicable, furious cruelty and abuse that he was subjected to. He characterized his attempted murder. They used acid on his ship. Okay. He concludes that the racism he experienced is on another level. Please let that sink in, because the NAACP, Kamala Harris, and Cory Booker are all apologists for Israel doing this under the so-called right to defense. Israel has no right to defend themselves against an innocent American black man by taking him to another level of brutality and racism. And his glimpse of what the Palestinians are going through suggests that they're operating in virtually another dimension to us. Our lack of comprehension is innate because we can't conceptualize that dimension. It's important that we try to understand what it is that we stand for in this and how to go about it rationally, reasonably, peacefully, but effectively. That is what I'm trying to formulate. It's the issue of effectiveness. Now, in combat situations, there are people who aren't fighters. And so they stand back and say, I'm not equipped, I'm not prepared, I can't do that. And it's true, they're not fighters. The elderly, for example, are not fighters. But the way that they go about backing off is improper. They say, therefore, I will not say anything. The way to show that you wish you dared is to speak up forcefully and clearly about the difference between right and wrong. One of the things that happens with military societies is they begin demanding tribute from the civilians. They take away the right of civilians to criticize to get in their face about what they're doing wrong. Civilian society puts civilians in command so that does not happen. This is where it gets a little bit complicated. There was a case in ancient South Korea, ancient Korea. There's no distinction in those days between South and North Korea. I apologize for the gaffe. King Uijong, who so abhorred war, so wanted peace, that he lit one of his generals' beards on fire for suggesting that they go to war. The general was sufficiently incensed that he murdered Uijong. And there's a lasting inner secret of military societies operating on the sly, like ours does with the CIA, which is that the nail that sticks up gets hammered down. And JFK is a resounding example through the ages. So when we wish we dared, we mustn't let the idea that the nail that sticks up will get hammered down lead us into subservience to what we know is wrong. We need to multiply our voices and find ways to insist and make clear that we will never, ever do lip service to such an aggravated atrocity, and that the people who allowed this to happen are going to be held answerable for it.